Okay, so we're talking about the tragic murder of Charlie Kirk. Now we're going to get into some details of how things unfolded on the day. So, the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk was arrested immediately, then released soon after when police determined he was not the shooter. So, here is the guy. And I hesitate to even show this video because you don't like to show images of people who like didn't do anything in this context. But we kind of have to because it is pretty important, I think, to piecing together the events of this day. And so here he is being dragged away while in custody saying, shoot me, which is not the normal reaction of a man who has just been arrested under the false pretense that he just shot somebody.
Shoot me! Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
So this guy, look, I'm not going to show any more close-ups of him, but, you know, here he is once again.
Shoot me! Shoot me! Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
Okay, so if I was just arrested and the cops are walking away saying, I don't know if it's him or not, why would I be screaming, shoot me, shoot me? Wouldn't the natural reaction in that moment to be to say, I didn't do it, you have the wrong guy, or to just keep your mouth shut? Like, what the hell is that about? That this guy who, and also I noticed as I was following Twitter yesterday, glued to the phone, like I'm sure many of us were, you know, usually in these situations when they get the wrong guy at first, they'll have the wrong guy for a couple minutes. There'll be a few accounts that tweet out a few photos that go somewhat viral, but then it'll quite quickly go away. Like they'll quite quickly realize they got the wrong guy and stop. This went on for a while. Like we were under the opinion that he was the shooter for what felt like to me about an hour, which is a long time to have the wrong guy, to have images of the wrong guy circulating online. And the assumption was that, you know, he was a boomer lib. I think that was everybody's assumption. Some people articulated that in tweets. But now, of course, we see this. Newly released footage shows the alleged shooter on the roof moments before he killed Charlie Kirk.
In place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there?
He's got to be police. You would think that. Okay, we're not going to show anymore because we obviously do not want to show the event itself here. But, you know, yeah, I hate to say this, but given the events of, like, you know, the last year or so, if you see a shady-looking dude on a roof, you should probably fucking tell somebody. Like, you probably make that known. Don't just assume it's a cop up there. Like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, yeah, who's that? All right. I mean, that is what it is at this point. So that comes and goes. Kash Patel, then, at 6:20, tweets out, the subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. We will provide updates when available. So to be clear, this was hours later, 6:21 p.m. on the East Coast. This was long after the original guy, the bald guy, the boomer guy there, had been released. It had been determined he was not the shooter at this point. So now this was a second person that they had apprehended and questioned. But of course, if you saw the community note there, they tagged that with this subsequent tweet. The subject in custody has been released after an interrogation by law enforcement. Our investigation continues, and we will continue to release information in the interest of transparency. And so for anybody watching the clip, we're doing this live stream noon on the 11th of September. So more information could be coming to light right now for all we know, and may have come to light by the time you watch this clipped video. But that is what we have as of now. There is no way, here, let me just shrink that so I could full screen this. There is no way someone untrained makes this shot and hits Charlie Kirk in the neck, says Grant Smith Ellis. If you've seen the video online, which you can, I can't say I advise that you watch it. That is up to you. It is quite disturbing. Direct shot right to the neck, jugular vein, blood everywhere. Pretty horrible to see. There's no way someone untrained makes this shot and hits Charlie Kirk in the neck. The shooter could only make it by getting far enough on the roof to clear the overhang of the building between him and Kirk. He then had to shoot over a crowd of hundreds and into a tent. If the person on that rooftop was the shooter, which I think is a safe assumption to make, but we cannot state that as fact, of course, that is a professional assassin to hit that shot from that distance. One bullet. That is a pro. That is a pro. I feel pretty confident in saying that. To make matters even more suspicious, Director Kash Patel, these two men standing behind Charlie Kirk look like they were giving hand signals right before the shot went off. You might want to look at it. God bless and thank you all for doing what you can to help save America. So let's take a look at this. This was right before, seconds before he gets shot. The camera cuts right before the shot was fired.
There have been in America over the last 10 years.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Again, I think it's kind of weird that the shot came right at that question. I can't say this for sure, obviously. Just a theory. Perhaps that question was a cue to do it. We don't know. But that combined with the fact that look at the guy in the white here. I'll mute the sound so we could just look at the image. He's acting like a third base coach.
Yeah.
Tipping the hat, hand over here. And then this guy, too. What is he doing over here? What's the guy in the black doing? It looks like they're giving...
But hang on. Play the sound. Weren't they playing the Macarena?
Yeah, right. There was no Macarena there. No, that was his riff about gun violence. Look, I mean, that's very strange. That's very strange to happen literally seconds before the shot rings out. I think that is extremely strange.
Yeah. I mean, it's right there. Come on.
The plot.
What other reason would there be for these two guys to be making these clear signals?
The timing of that is very suspicious. Literally, gun violence. Those were the last words that Charlie Kirk spoke. I'll play with the sound again one more time.
How many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Okay, literally the next split second is when he gets hit. Right as whatever these hand signals are, go off. Doesn't look good. I could say that. All right, so now, not to be predictable and cliche here, folks, but why was Charlie Kirk shot? Watch this. This was a month ago. Really watch it. If Charlie Kirk turned on Israel, they'd be fucked. Harrison Smith called it. So we're going to play an excerpt from this video in a moment, but I do want to set this up before we do that. So Harrison Smith, the guy he's referring to, tweeted this out a few weeks ago, I suppose, August 13th? Almost a full month ago. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. Now, this is what you have to understand before we get into this more. Charlie Kirk swims in the same waters as Jack Posobiec, Benny Johnson, right? Gunther Eagleman, right? End Wokeness, MAGA Voice, all these influencers. He was not them. Charlie Kirk was extraordinarily influential in right-wing politics. Turning Point USA had established chapters, as you can see here, over 3,500 campuses. Turning Point USA was a very, very well-funded and well-oiled political machine. This is why many people in response to this shooting are recalling the first time they ever saw Charlie talk or the first time they met him. A very common recollection of theirs is they remember thinking when they first met this guy, he's going to be head of the RNC one day. He's going to be governor of a state one day. He's going to be president someday. And he very well could have been. He was only 31. He was not eligible to run.
Right. Yeah.
But when you look at the influence he had just as a podcaster, just as a personality, it was massive. And then look even further. Look at this ground game he had built out. Look at all of these chapters of his organization that when he becomes a candidate, they get turned into campaign apparatus. He was tremendously influential. This is not Benny Johnson hawking hats outside of Alligator Alcatraz. This isn't Gunther Eagleman going viral with his tweets. This was a formidable political project in the making. So that's what you have to understand going into this. This is not just some influencer. Okay? Here we go. On September 9th, Charlie Kirk conducted his final interview featuring Ben Shapiro as a guest. 10 minutes into the discussion, Kirk openly and objectively asked a question concerning his position on Israel.
Act against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, on so like maybe we should also ask a question: is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse.
Okay, so again, this is not Benny Johnson saying this. This is not going through this. This is this guy saying this. He could very, very easily be the future of the conservative movement, this guy, with the infrastructure that he had built out. There's a difference between being a star and having a machine behind you and having built a machine. Mm-hmm. All right, let's watch a little more.
Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
All right, now this, shout out to whoever did this. I'm assuming Graffernati actually did this, compiled this, but this is Charlie Kirk's side of that first video that I showed you with Megyn Kelly. So that's this. These are some highlights that are pieced together from a recent interview with Megyn Kelly.
Where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. It's
been so unfair.
You,
they were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like, we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice.
It's like there's some rule you can't go there when it comes to Israel.
Well, you and I believe that we're Americans and Americans first, period. End of story. We are citizens of this nation, okay?
That's right.
Israel, we have funded, we have supported, like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megyn, calling me an anti-Semite. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megyn. Not my decisions, not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go, you saw it, Megyn. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages.
It's offensive to those of us who have been out there defending them in many instances against critics on our own side. And now you have a couple of comments like, well, what about?
Yep. So here is Charlie Kirk on the Patrick Bet-David podcast. Now, I don't know when this is. I just found this before we went to air. I haven't looked it up when this happened, but it doesn't really matter because if you look at what he said, it kind of speaks for itself. We'll play a little bit.
I put all those things out there.
Yeah.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country is a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this.
Okay, so people are saying in the chat that's 2023. That makes sense. That makes sense. I think it was from a couple years ago, but there you have it. There you have it. So Syrian Girl did a great thread on this. Charlie Kirk was attacked by Israel supporters last month and labeled an anti-Semite for defending free speech. Not everything is as it seems, and people have layers and hidden thoughts. Kirk was against that anti-boycott bill, which ultimately failed. He spoke out against that before it failed. To be fair, he did show a little backbone on that. He didn't just stick his finger in the wind and see which way Trump was going. He actually tried to influence the Trump administration to nix that, which, of course, they did, at least in Congress. Of course, she mentions this, the Harrison Smith. Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. We showed that a few minutes ago. targeting in the neck, very IDF coded. Last month, Charlie Kirk openly discussed Epstein being a Mossad agent with Megyn Kelly at Turning Point USA. He then called on the DOJ to release all of the files. The editor of Fox News and Spectator complained that if Charlie Kirk remained the head of TPUSA, it will cause an anti-Semitism problem. Cracks started to form after October 7th. This is Ben Dominic, Meghan McCain's husband. If Charlie Kirk remains the head of TPUSA, the right has an anti-Semite problem that will follow them into the coming elections. Again, I hate to be a broken record, but I just have to emphasize the amount of influence that TPUSA had on right-of-center politics. It was a huge deal that he was letting anti-Zionist voices into the conversation. Charlie Kirk essentially towed the line. He did a disgusting, horrible famine denial piece with an Israeli rabbi just a month and a half ago. I'm not trying to whitewash Charlie Kirk's record on this, but the very act of talking the way he talked with Megyn Kelly on that stage, putting Dave Smith on that stage to debate an Israel supporter, this was seen as a bridge too far for a lot of these people, and TPUSA is arguably as influential, if not more in the long run, than CPAC, because he was activating the next generation of political actors. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge machine. Zionists accused Charlie Kirk for infesting Turning Point with anti-Semitism as far back as 2023. You can see, sourced there. People started noticing Charlie Kirk shifting on Israel for the last month and predicting his assassination. Tommy Borum, if Charlie turned heel on Israel, they would have someone shoot him at an open-air event, and they'd have some idiot groiper with a genetically anomalous issue there to be the patsy or the fall guy. Turned out it was a boomer, lib type, or so we assume. That was the first fall guy. Part of why you never make the deal with the devil in the first place. Kryptonomicon says Charlie is in too deep. He knows it. We all do. He posted this yesterday. That I posted this a little over 3 weeks ago. Israeli media and Bill Ackman accused Charlie of platforming anti-Israel voices last month at TPUSA. Yep. This is something that we followed. I don't think we ever did a segment on it, but we followed it. You know, they had Tucker speak there. The old guard was not happy about that. The Dave Smith debate. You also had Benjamin Netanyahu immediately after news broke praying for Charlie Kirk, and he issued a statement about his murder before Donald Trump did. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom, blah, blah, blah. We won't read the rest of that. Free Palestine. But you add all that together, and I'm sorry, this smells like shit. This looks like, first of all, I could say 99.9% this was a professional job. To me, there is absolutely zero reason to think this was not a professional job. So then the question is, who did it and why? A false flag to instigate a civil war between right and left? Possible. But look at all this circumstantial evidence leading up to this. His last interview was with Ben Shapiro talking about Israel. We know. See, it really comes down to just understanding how influential he was and what a threat he would be if he were to buck the party line on an issue as big as this. And so, obviously, we have no proof. Obviously, we don't have any more evidence, really, than what I just showed you. But this looks terrible to me. The totality of everything, the way the day went down, the timeline of events, and seeing what he's had to say recently about this issue, it looks really bad. It looks really bad. It looks like this was a professional job. George Galloway said he believes it's a deep state job for whatever reason. I think he's correct. This was orchestrated, in my opinion.
Yes. And if you want to see how much influence the Zionist lobby and its proxies have lost, it's how quickly people came to that conclusion, because it's so obviously an orchestrated hit. So once you take the idea, oh, yeah, crazy lib, once that's off the table, and now you've got a guy who made a very difficult shot off a roof and seemingly got away. I don't know if this is true. People were sharing around that a plane left and turned off its transponder for about an hour from an airport there, and then turned it back on and returned. Why? So, yes, there's a lot of fishy stuff here. We always knew that these people are not going to go down quietly. They're not just going to accept, oh, we lost the propaganda war. Israel is a rabid dog that has been operating with impunity for over 3/4 of a century. And to them, they are in the final solution phase. They are in the phase where they get to the other side of what they've been aiming for. Greater Israel. They get Greater Israel, and in 100 years, they could do nice documentaries about how terrible what they did to the Palestinians were, right? Just like we have our documentaries about the Trail of Tears. Right. That is what they want. Let history judge us. By that time, it'll be done. We just have to get through this. That's how they're looking at things. We're going to see in the next segment. To go ahead and bomb the peace negotiations at Qatar, seemingly without, at the very least, Donald Trump's knowledge or permission. Yeah, they don't care if they start World War III. It looks like they might be accomplishing what many people have lamented looked impossible, uniting the neighborhood against them by doing this. And they don't care. They're saying, hey, well, what's the U.S. going to do if that happens? Not get into it, and then they have what they want. They want World War III. They want this final battle so that they can have their Greater Israel. To whack Charlie Kirk, to them, that's put that not only taking Charlie Kirk off the table, who, as you point out, was no Gunther Eagleman or Patrick Bet-David. He wasn't just a clown with a microphone. He was a guy with a very activated national organization.
Yes, he was an
could
organizer.
Very easily have been mobilized.
Yes.
Very good one. He was a prodigy. He was a true prodigy in the space. But a much more effective one than Ben Shapiro, and one who was not in their service in that way. And they could see how that was going. You know, young Republicans are mostly not in favor of our policies towards Israel, and he was a young Republican, and it looked like he was going to go more and more that way over time. It's also to scare the rest of them. Now, I think on that level, it's going to backfire. I think it's you could already see it backfiring by how fast this conversation turned. They dropped the crazy lib story pretty quick, pretty fast. Like, Gunther Eagleman doesn't give a shit. He's just gonna write out the thing that's gonna get him the most clicks. He doesn't care. Right off the block, he was going with they declared war. Even the Chud accounts seem to have dropped that, man. The conversation seemed to have turned to Israel right away, like within hours, once people saw what a professional job this was. If there was one thing you're not going to convince MAGA of, it's the gun competence of libs.
Well, that's the other thing. Yes, obviously, once it came out that the bald guy, the old guy, was not the guy, at that point, I think a lot of people came to this thought very quickly. Because
right, who was it who tweeted it out? I think you sent it to me like very early, like, hey, let's not jump to conclusions here.
Michael Tracy? Just kidding. Haha. No. It's a joke. Got to lighten the mood somehow, right? Yeah, no, I mean, I forget who that was. I've read thousands of tweets over the past 15 hours. But yeah, no, I mean, you made a very important point, which I forgot to make, which is a good one, that the guy got away. And not only did the guy get away, but the guy got away for what felt like, I don't have the exact timing in my head, but what felt like a good hour or so, we were under the impression that the shooter was in custody, that it was that first guy. And people fucking doxed his name. They put pictures out, like, I would say I feel terrible for that guy, but given his behavior, you have to wonder if he was in on it. I mean, I can't say that. I don't want to say that about the guy if I don't know it. But what's he doing screaming, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, while the cops take him away if he didn't do anything? Right. Like, he's acting like a guy. Like, you're either acting. Why, if you didn't just shoot a man, would you act like a lunatic who just shot a man while you're in handcuffs.
Look,
unless
you,
are doing that, unless you are playing your part in a play. Right. It just doesn't make sense.
For an hour, the money is in the Swiss.
That's what I mean.
Untraceable.
Right. While that's going on, this guy, whoever does it, gets away. And I just saw on Twitter, they're posting pictures of the suspect. They're looking for information about him. He's got sunglasses, black shirt. Hard to really tell much about him. We'll see what happens on that score. We'll see what information comes to light. Obviously, we have proof of nothing, but man, does it not look good. Man, does it not look good. And I don't think that's an unreasonable position.
Please clap.